communication, and with direct communication, people usually tend to say what they mean and they mean what they say. It's very straightforward. Instead of beating around the bush, the communicator would immediately ask the question or give an order. And with this type of communication style, people are less likely to imply and more likely to say exactly what they're thinking. But there are some potential conflicts with this communication style. Those who are more on the indirect degree of directness may be offended by those who partake in direct communication, and there's also more of a risk of offending or surprising the receiver by the directness of the message. A positive is when people use direct communication, there's less risk for misunderstanding.
Mike, I've been thinking about it a lot. I do not want to be in this relationship anymore. And we're over. You can have that back.
Indirect communication can be seen as acting out rather than directly saying what a person's thinking. An indirect communicator uses expressions, tone of voice, or body gestures to get their point across. Indirect communication is also described as hinting feelings rather than using words. Typically, this is used to avoid conflict where a person's potential experience is uncomfortable. Potential conflicts with this type of communication are, if you're not used to it, you won't be able to pick up the signs to get what the person's saying. And then indirect communication requires extra effort for understanding and often leads to long-standing issues that never really get resolved. And then indirect versus direct communication questions would be someone trying to say, wouldn't you rather do this? Or instead of saying like, would you like to do this directly? Or can you tell me what we do now? That'd be indirect. And then what would you like to do would be direct.
So, it's just been a long 2 years, and I mean, I don't know where this is going, but I mean, I don't know, like, do you know what I mean?
I hope it goes somewhere great.
No, Mike, you know, like, it's been a long 2 years.
Yeah, tell me about my day today. It was long.
No, you and me and this whole thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we've been doing it for a long time. It's great.
Okay, so you understand.
Yeah, you want to get married?
No! Go.
This chart shows many different phrases that are part of a culture's different vernacular that creates a pattern of communication. For example, in indirect communication, as kids you might have heard, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all.
And whereas on direct communication side, they more so tend to tell it like it is, and the facts tend to speak for themselves.
And then indirect communicators usually say maybe or possibly, even if they mean no.
And direct communicators tend to think it's okay to just say no.
As for culture, both indirect and direct communication are found in all cultures, but some cultures will lean more towards one or the other. However, indirect communication may look very different among cultures. For example, indirect communication in Japan will look very differently from indirect communication in the US. According to one source, it's considered rude to be direct in Japanese culture, where here in the US it's respected. Being passive and indirect is considered polite in Japan. This is just one example of how communication differs across nations. Indirect communication is said to be more prevalent in high-context cultures, which emphasize interdependence and more social relationships, for example, Japan and China, while low-context cultures, Germany, Scandinavia, and the United States, see more direct communication.
I will be covering the history portion of indirect and direct communication. Direct and indirect communication can bring in big differences with more cross-culture misunderstandings. Communication is the activity or process of expressing ideas, information, or even feelings. Words can be difficult to understand when you are talking to other people. Different cultures can be found to express their communication in other ways that may look different to how Americans talk. For the teaching portion of direct and indirect communication, students tend to learn in different ways, and teachers need to think about how they make lessons and activities based on learning styles and needs for their students. Direct and indirect communication can be taken differently when you are teaching certain lessons and activities. There are certain strategies when it comes to monitoring students' understanding and providing feedback on their performances.
When using direct communication, you want to make sure that you have a clear determination and articulation of your goals. Teaching instruction is directed, and using direct instruction and communication is really effective and is based on behavioristic learning principles. Indirect communication and instruction is an approach to telling and learning in which concepts, patterns, and abstractions are taught. Using teaching strategies that include higher-level thinking questions like problem solving and projects will help lead students to think very critically.
Okay, time for a survey. We're going to go through 3 questions. Answer honestly what you would say in this situation. First scenario, employee. You're a boss and one of your employees is late for work. You have 2 options. Option A, you would say, "You're late, be on time or you will be given a warning." Or option B, "Please be mindful of your punctuality." Take a minute and choose which one you would pick. Next scenario, your roommate. You have a messy roommate. What do you say? Option A, "Can you clean the room? I can't work in a messy space." Or would you say, "Man, it's a little stinky in here." Take a moment and decide which option you would pick. Last scenario, a good friend gets a haircut. It's bad. What do you say? Option A, "What'd you do? It looks awful." Or option B, "Something's different." Take a moment. What would you say to your friend? I don't know if you caught on, but if you answered A, it meant you were direct. If you answered B, it meant you were being indirect. Which ones did you have more of?